and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Here's our wonderful voice.
God, I love the station.
Good morning, wherever you may be around the globe, in the chat room, on another planet, or on the other side. This is The Last Frequency. I am Mike Vera, and this broadcast, it's coming at you live from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina, located on the east coast of the United States, and the website is www.lastfrequency.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means inform others. I am trying to adjust sound. I think, according to my meters, everything is good. So if not, I don't know, find a way to let me know. But I think we're good. I think we finally got everything worked out. Oh, finally. So I don't anticipate any issues from here on out anyways for a while. So I have a really good guest joining me here tonight, and I am looking really forward to talking with this guest. She's been on before. She's coming back again. It's been a little while. Judy Carroll will join me. Judy Carroll's experienced ongoing contact with ETs, the ones known as Greys or Zetas. She says all of her life. We're going to talk to her about that tonight, and yeah, I am definitely looking forward to it. So if you missed last night's show over on YouTube, it went well, pretty much without a hitch or a glitch. And you can find it over on YouTube. It's also in the archives. I originally was going to only do it on YouTube, but I'm doing it on the station as well. So doing it on both. But yeah, but you could go find it. It's there. It was a really good show. And next week, I anticipate getting back to uncensored, which, I'm really trying to get more and more going here for The Last Frequency. And so, 3 nights a week now I'm on, 2 nights with this show, 1 night with the other one. And you can find all the detail. Oh, and by the way, I won't go too far into it because it's not in stone yet, but we got another show might be coming to this network. And anyways, if it does, I think some of you will really like it. Anyhow, so news and discovery, because I do have some. On the Sunday show, I don't really get into too much of that. Maybe 1 or 2 things, if that. It's mainly about bringing the guest on and using YouTube to get people here and to other things that we do. So that's mainly what it's all about over there. You got to be careful on YouTube. You're walking on really thin ice over there. You say the wrong thing and think, Anyways, so yeah, Judy Carroll. Judy Carroll has experienced ongoing trying to get, there we go. Ongoing contact with ETs, known as Greys or Zetas, all her life. Judy identifies as a blended soul whose conscious awareness spans two planetary connections, both Earth Human and Zeta Grey, the author of 5 books in the Zeta series, Judy's Mission, along with other blended souls now incarnated as Earth humans. Says is to be an interplanetary ambassador. That's the goal. And introducing more clarity and deeper understanding of what has happened here in the past, offering understanding of present time global events, and providing guidance on how to heal our future as a planetary civilization. Judy and Paula Jane are the host of the YouTube podcast Just Love, which can be accessed through Judy's channel, the Zeta Messenger it's youtube.com, and just look for at the Zeta Message. And so why don't we go ahead and bring Judy on, and hopefully that works, at least. Something working here. Let's see. Okay. And we are going to dial her up. I don't know what to expect here. Okay. I know earlier, mics were changed. Anyways, I got it figured out. Good evening, Judy. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks, Mike. How are you?
I am doing just fine, and it's great to have you here. Tonight for me, this morning, I think for you?
Yes, it is. It's 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, all right. I hope you had your breakfast and you're ready to go.
I sure am.
All right, great. Well, listen, we are live. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting into this with you. I think we talked before. It's been a while, though.
It has been a while, Mike. Yes. I know you spoke with Jacqueline Smith recently, who's a good friend of mine, but it'd be lovely to talk with you again, so thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you bet. So, you've had quite the life experience here, and I thought maybe it'd be a good place to start with a little bit of background and how all this came about.
Okay, it's quite a story.
Okay.
It's actually started pre-birth when I chose to come in as what's called a blended or dual soul consciousness. It's a pre-birth choice, and it's part of the preparation that we actually go through prior to reincarnating into a physical life. Everyone goes through this preparation. We need to bear in mind that in the greater reality, between physical lives, we're pure energy beings. So when the time comes for us to reincarnate, part of our preparation involves aligning our energy self, our consciousness, with the energy frequency or signature of whichever planetary or cultural collective consciousness that we're planning to be born into. So as I say, everyone does this. Now, for most souls, just one selected. For example, if a soul chooses to experience life as a human of Earth, then that's the collective consciousness that they align with, along with a particular Earth culture, family, etc. Now, for blended or dual people like myself and others down here, we make a pre-birth alignment with two planetary collective consciousnesses. So in my case, it was with both Earth Human and the Grey collective consciousness. Author Susie Hansen talks about this specifically in her book, The Dual Soul Connection. At age 15, I had the first body paralysis experience. I woke in the middle of the night. I couldn't move my body, and I could see that I was sleeping in a back veranda, so there was a door to the outside downstairs, and the door knob handle was turning, and I could not move a muscle. The fact that I could see it was strange because there was no lights around. Tried to call to my parents, couldn't, because you can't call out in that state. Yeah. And the next thing, I just blanked out. I think I had some missing time. Next morning, I woke up with a memory of it, but not quite. I knew it wasn't physical. I didn't understand what was going on. But it was after that I started becoming aware of a teacher, a non-human teacher who was stepping in and starting to take take on, helping me out with my life. And from that point on, I started feeling a little bit better about it. I was guided down certain paths to study by this teacher. And then at age 30, I had a very full-on encounter in the middle of the afternoon. Again, the body paralysis and 3 greys appearing in the room. As I say, it was mid-afternoon and they were so solid they were blocking out light coming in through a window. And on that occasion, I remember them fully as family. I could see them. I was out of my body having a discussion with them. They were giving me advice on where to go, that I needed to start meditating. They advised me to learn Tai Chi because I had been a professional dancer, so just sitting in static meditation, I just couldn't manage it. So they advised me to learn Tai Chi, which was the best advice I've ever been given by anyone. They told me I would be learning an alternative healing method, which turned out to be Reiki, but back then in Australia we didn't even know what that was. We didn't even know about greys or ETs back then. There was just no knowledge whatsoever. We were living on an acreage property at the time, and I was told I would need to move back into the city. So over the next 2 or 3 years, all sorts of weird coincidences came into play to get us to move back to town. I found Tai Chi classes around the corner about a week after we got into our new house. A woman moved next door who'd been meditating for 10 years, and her teacher had come up from down south and was looking for new students. She wanted to start a meditation group, to which I was invited, and it all sort of took off from there.
I see. And so I've heard before that the greys, I've had people tell me they're mechanical, some think they're demons. I mean, well, they do. And so what exactly are these greys? Who are they? What do they want?
Okay, I know all these stories, Mike. I hear them again and again. There's 2 things going on down here. There's the genuine greys, who are ones like myself, who are quite capable of experiencing emotion, but at the same time we're very aware of the fact that we don't look like Earth humans and that we scare people. I remember being looked at with absolute horror by an Earth human man up on the ship one night when I was working on him. The reason we have problems with displaying emotion is the greys are originally out of insectoids, and the musculature in our faces doesn't allow us to move our mouths very much. Even like eating food, the food is generally rubbed into the skin or a little like a communion wafer type thing placed on the tongue. And I even have trouble with this in my Earth human body, in that I have a little bit of trouble with my lower jaw, and particularly on the left side of my face, which is sort of the grey side. The right side is the 3D side, and the other side is the more spiritual side. And when I had to do my first talk as a grey openly up on stage, I actually had to get physiotherapy done on my jaw. And previous to that, my tall grey teacher, Maris, had actually given me a lot of sort of massage and physiotherapy as well. So we can't display emotion with those faces, but it doesn't mean we don't feel it deeply. But what people don't understand, and Dr. Stephen Greer talks about this quite a lot, is there is a very strong disinformation program going on down here, because the genuine greys are trying to help Earth humans to escape from the brainwashing and control agenda that's been going on planet Earth for millennia. There's a group down here who have actually manufactured fake greys. Dr. Stephen Greer talks about them as PLFs, programmed life forms, and they were originally created out of the genetic material of genuine greys who died in the disk crashes, Roswell, etc. There's a number of disk crashes that happened, and these beings are sort of like clones, and they're programmed, and they're used in what are known as the mewe labs, the military abductions, in which both the PLFs and also drugs, mind control, hypnosis, etc. are used to give the impression that the person is being abducted by evil greys. And so this is how this whole disinformation campaign has started up down here. And we're doing our best to try to explain to people, hey, come on, there's two groups. We're the good group. But there's another group that aren't real greys, but they're very they've been very cleverly manufactured to fool people.
Oh, okay. All right. And are they involved with? I mean, I've had people who've told me they've been abducted, and some have described waking up and seeing humans and greys around
Oh
them.
yes, yes. In both cases, in most cases where people see military humans, it's a fake one, a MILAB, a military abduction. At the same time, there are humans up on our ships too. I mean, I go up there sometimes in my human body. And we have people like hybrids who are helping out with our own programs. So it could be either. What I always advise people to do is try to feel into the energy that's going on. If there's any nastiness or cruelty or anything involved, then it's not our people. At the same time, when people are taken up for procedures onto our ships, sometimes pain is involved. It's just the same as if you go to a doctor. Sometimes pain's involved. They've got to give you an injection or something. And some people are absolutely terrified of doctors and dentists.
Yeah.
So, sometimes these things do happen, but we try to minimise it.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a big fan of the dentist myself, but blood pressure seems to go up when I go to that place. But yeah, so
Yeah.
when did your ET contact? I mean, did it begin as a child, and why? Why do you think they chose you?
Oh, because I'm a dual soul consciousness. So I have a grey link as well. So it's my own grey family who contacted me. And I'm down here specifically as an ambassador between the two races. And so therefore I was contacted right from childhood. But as I said, I turned off my grey consciousness because I wanted to experience the fear from both. I needed to understand the whole scenario from both sides, so that now if someone contacts me and says, oh, I'm terrified, I'm experiencing contact with the greys and I'm scared, I can say to them, look, I know exactly where you're coming from. And I think having that experience, I think maybe I've been able to pull a few strings upstairs to make things a bit easier for other people. Like all I can say is when I'm up there, I have conscious memories of being on the ship as a grey. I've seen myself in the mirror shapeshift and become a grey. And all I can say is I'm no different up there to how I am down here. If I ever saw anyone being hurt up on a ship, purposely scared or hurt, I'd be the first one to step in very, very firmly and stop it. That's all I can say.
So were you born into this world here, or do you feel like not so much?
Yes, I had a natural birth. I think probably some genetic work was carried on when I was in my mother's womb. I think she was having contacts as well. Back in those days, nothing was known about ET contact. So I remember Mum just saying something once that she didn't understand, but I sort of realised now I think she was having contact herself, because it does tend to go down through families. I obviously chose my family very, very carefully. I realise how lucky I am in the family I chose. Because the circumstances were set up very carefully for me to be able to undertake the study and do the things that I needed to do to operate as a dual soul grey human.
So then your mother may have been, I don't know what you like to call it. I'd call it abducted and experimented on in a way that. So you might have been like some hybrid type baby, or?
Yes. It would have been through free will on her part. No one is ever so-called abducted by the genuine greys against their will. Agreements are made, pre-birth agreements are made. What we're down here to do is to try and repair the damage that's been done by this negative group that's been on the planet for millennia. We're trying to repair the damage because they interfered. The old story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden is a very, very loose parable of this interference that was done to the the young Earth human race right back then. And what happens, part of their DNA was turned off that should have been allowed to develop. One of the Grey teachers actually described it to me once. He said, it's like the universe is a flowing river and planet Earth has been sort of pushed off to the side into a stagnant pool, or shunted off into a siding, like if you're talking in railway terms. And it's time for people to start waking up because of the fact that the planet's shifting now. We talk about the Hopi and Mayan predictions of planet Earth shifting from fourth to fifth world consciousness, and that's exactly what's happening. And if people want to go along with the shift, they need to have more of their DNA open or activated so that in turn they can access more of their conscious awareness. And this is the reason why people are taken up onto the ships to have this repair done on them.
I see. All right. Sorry, I was just checking the sound here for a second.
Yeah.
So there's so much negative information that actually, is put on the Greys. I mean, people don't normally have too many good things to say about them. How much of that is, I can't, okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get that off. That was just very distracting. Breaking my own rules here. But so how much of that is myth? And, because, so you say nobody gets taken without their permission. Then is it that some just don't remember they gave permission? I mean,
look, heaps of people don't. How many people remember pre-birth choices? Most of us are flat out remembering what happened 10 years ago, let alone what we decided before we were born. So yes, genuine ET contact is always a free will choice by the person. They will approach the Greys and say, look, I want to evolve a bit further, come and help me out. We say, okay, fair enough. And we all sort of sit down around a table and make an agreement. But yes, taking up what you're saying, there is a huge, huge, huge amount of myth and disinformation around this whole thing. A very, very large survey was done some years ago by the FREE organisation, which stands for Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. It was started by a gentleman by the name of Ray Hernandez, and the sixth astronaut to walk on the moon, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, ended up as their patron up until his death.
Yeah.
Now, I took part in this survey. It goes back quite a few years ago. And what this survey found was that the vast majority of contact is actually positive, and people who have had genuine contact develop all sorts of, they often develop healing abilities. They often become more psychic. They choose spirituality over religion. They sort of wake up to the fact that a lot of religion down here is brainwashing, so they choose to be spiritual rather than religious. It just came out that the majority of contact was positive. But this is never put across. It's always a disinformation, small amount of people who are being taken by the negative ones. They're the ones who always get talked to and asked about, because people down here seem to love drama. It seems to be a human thing. They link into drama and fear before they'll link into positive stuff. So it's playing into their hands.
So, okay, because I was going to say then, there's been so many people. Now, I've interviewed many people who say it was terrifying to them, and then there's others who said it was a beautiful thing and they loved it, and they, and then some who say it's ongoing.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, it is. It is. With the genuine Greys, if you ask them to definitely stop, they will. They will always respect. They always show respect. But most people, once they get used to it, they would hate it to stop in their lives. The other thing that we have to remember is the human body has like a physiological response. When we see something that looks very, very different, like a grey, the body reacts to it.
That's right.
People can get this shaking and terror. And it's very hard to break through that with them. As I say, I've had experience up on the ship as a Grey trying to break through with someone and communicate with them. And, of course, we only communicate telepathically. And when a person's in fear, it's like they're tuned to the wrong radio station. You just can't get through to them.
Yeah, and you know, you think about it. People are told from a child that these things aren't real. You know, that's nonsense. Blah blah blah. Then one day you wake up and there they are.
Exactly.
It would be
Exactly.
kind of terrifying for most. I think it'd be a little terrifying for me too, but I would welcome it at least once just so I could say, oh yeah, absolutely, they're real.
Well, most people who are interested in this subject are actually having experiences, but the majority just block them out. You can't remember them. I mean, what we've got to understand is down here on planet Earth, we're stuck in 3D and we're only operating on about 10% of our potential conscious awareness. So stuff outside of that 3D barrier, we just cannot, our brain can't process it. And this is where a lot of the problem starts. And trying to help people pass this is why they're taken up on the ships to try and open up more consciousness.
Oh, I see. Okay. And so, what is their overall, I mean, why? Why are they doing it? What's so special about us if there's life all through the cosmos? You know?
Well, it's not just special with planet Earth because they've worked with a lot of planetary cultures, but what's happening with Earth at the moment is moving from fourth to fifth world consciousness. And so for people to be able to stay with the planet, they need to stay with their Mother Earth, as they say. They need for their consciousness to be opened up further. So that's why it's all going on here. You know, it's all here at the moment. That's why.
Oh, okay. And so, what do you know about like hybrid programs? Like, there's so many people who have said that they were part of some kind of hybrid program. Some had said that they were used to have, to have babies, and then they would be pregnant one time, and then some months later, or 2-3 months later, they're no longer pregnant.
Yes, there are again, there's two parallel hybrid programs going on. There's our hybrid program, which is just trying to upgrade humanity to a higher level, a more spiritual level. But then there's the My Lab program, the military program, which is designed to create super soldiers. I've actually had contact with a couple of these people. One of them managed to escape from the program. She knew what was going on, and she was in the process of writing a book, and I was helping her edit it, and then she disappeared off the scene, so I'd say she's been silenced. So yes, there's two programs going on. She was actually bred to be a super soldier, and oh boy, the story she told me was quite horrendous. I'm hoping that I managed to help her a little bit by talking to her.
Yeah. So, what about where do they? I mean, where are these guys hanging out? Are they just like chilling out in space, or they on the moon, or where? Because they seem to be able to come and go as they please, or is it interdimensional?
Yeah, they have bases. There is a base on the moon. So again, what people need to understand, we're talking about dimensional frequencies here. That ETs usually operate on much higher frequencies. So you could have a ship hovering over your backyard and you wouldn't see it because it's in a higher dimensional frequency. All the dimensions are right here, right now. And so yes, there are bases on the moon, but generally they operate at a higher frequency, so they're not going to be seen.
And that's kind of how a ghost or a spirit works, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely, yes. They're just operating on a different frequency right beside you in your house. They can be, and you don't see them. Yeah. But if people have just that little bit more conscious awareness, then they can see them.
Okay. And just for the record out there, everybody, 'cause I had somebody tell me that on Rumble it was the music was distorted and so on and so forth. All I can tell you is that I've been listening to it as I can, radio-wise, and the radio version is perfect. So at least it has been. For me, it is. I don't know. Maybe people, anything I don't, let me know. But, yeah, so has the Earth been hijacked in some way by some... we hear about reptilians and all these other things. Is there an alien race on this planet that does not have our best interest at heart?
Oh, absolutely, for sure, but they're not alien, they're Earth human. My book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth Lessons in History, goes into this in great detail, and in fact, I was taken up onto the ship back in November 2011 and specifically asked to write this book. My first two books had just been released, and there was publicity work going on, and I thought, oh, phew, thank goodness for that, because it's really hard writing, it's hard work. And I was taken up on the ship and asked to write a third book. And the history of Earth, what I call this race, and they've been controllers of humanity for thousands of years, and in fact in many cases they're the God of the Old Testament. Now I call them reptarians. They're a race that was created at the time of the dinosaurs by an off-planet creator race who came down here, just as Earth humans were created, and they were like the Greys are insectoids. These ones are reptilian. So I call them reptarians because I want to differentiate them from off-planet reptilians, most of whom are good people. I have several reptilian friends, and they're lovely people. They really care. They're trying to heal as well. They're often good healers. But the reptarians, no, although there are probably some that are okay. But in general, they hijacked the planet. So they were a human race that was created down here out of reptilian genetics, and they hijacked the planet. They took it over as their own. And they're still here. Some of them still in that reptilian form. Others are incarnating here as humans. And these are the ones who are behind what's known as a shadow government. They've basically enslaved humanity right from back then in various ways. So they're still enslaving humanity, and they're still brainwashing people through religion, through politics, etc., etc. So they're very much still in control down here. And, of course, they're the ones who are behind the whole disinformation program about the genuine ETs, because they don't want us coming in and helping to empower humanity to get them away from this control.
There's disinformation going on about everything right now.
Oh,
it's insane. I mean, not even just right now. It's been going on. It's just blatant now, and it's like, I don't know what's real anymore. It's
I know.
My God, just when you think you know something, you don't.
Yep. What it is, the reptarians, it's part of their whole control program. What people really need to understand, and I keep pushing this all the time, we create our own reality. We have the God essence within us, and we create our own reality. So what they're doing their very, very best to put out a negative, dramatic, frightening reality, in inverted commas, that people are going to link into to keep them under control. And this is really important for people to understand. My Grey teacher, Maris, some years ago, sent through a whole teaching on focusing on positive rather than negative, and how you can be so easily drawn into focusing on negative, whereas to focus on positivity is an active choice that you have to make. And this is what this whole Armageddon thing's about, that they've taught about through religion. It's not a religious war. It's a war within your own heart between love, and when I say love here, I mean unconditional love, and fear. And fear is the if you want to use a religious term, it's the Satan element within ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is what the controllers, how can I say, they play into, to keep people in fear and drama.
I was just going to say, if that's the goal, they're doing a really good job of it. I mean, between the lamestream fake news that we get everywhere now, not just on TV, it's all over the damn place. I mean, that, and I mean, people that are supposedly voted in to have our best interest at heart, which is, right. So, I mean, it's just, the only way you get to the truth is to dig yourself, and even then, they put out these breadcrumbs to lead you in the wrong path.
Look, there's all sorts of rabbit holes you can go down. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now, speaking of religion, you'd mentioned religion, so let me bring this up. Do these extraterrestrials have a view on God? Because Lord knows people on this planet do.
You're not kidding. They certainly do. But again, humans have created God and the angels in their own image. God is not a three-dimensional old man sitting up on a cloud, and angels are not blue-eyed, blonde human beings. They're energy beings, very highly evolved energy beings. So God is actually how can I say, it's universal consciousness that permeates every living creature on the planet. And this comes right down to the mineral kingdom. So we're not just talking humans here, we're talking every creature that has consciousness, including the mineral kingdom. God essence is within everything.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that's how the ETs look upon God. And they refer to God as oneness. Some of them refer to God as the forever, but it's certainly not a human being. It's an energy. God is an energy.
Well, yeah, I would guess that, God is just everything that is. I mean, just,
Yes.
like we live within
Yeah.
that force.
Yeah. That's right.
And I think it goes without saying there's good and bad everywhere, right? I've said this before. You got good dogs, some will lick you, some will bite you, right? You got good and bad everything. Good fish, bad fish. I mean, no matter where you go, what you look at, there's good and bad to everything. And I think that goes without saying with the extraterrestrials too. I mean, I don't assume that they all can be perfect and so advanced that they don't think in a harmful way. There's got to, like what's going on this planet right now. Sometimes I ask the question, how could humans do this to themselves?
Yeah. What I think I need to do here, Mike, is explain about the human ladder. This was a
Okay.
teaching that was given to us many, many years ago by one of the great teachers. The human ladder is a cycle of evolution that all human races follow throughout the universe. And there's 10 levels. And these levels, the Greys call them galactic levels, but it's a little bit of a misnomer because they're not places as such. They're levels of conscious awareness.
Okay.
Planet Earth is on level 1, which means we can access approximately 10% of our conscious awareness. Now, I'm not talking brain here, I'm talking about consciousness, because if I say this, all the scientists come out, oh, no, we use our whole brain, our autonomous nervous system, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consciousness. We can access about 10% of our consciousness, or potential conscious awareness, and this is linked into the approximate 10% of our activated DNA. Once you evolve to level 2, which is where the genuine ETs are trying to help Earth humanity up to, you can then access 20% of your potential conscious awareness with that much DNA activated, and so on and so forth up to level 10, where they operate in full conscious awareness, 100% conscious awareness. So this is sort of God consciousness, and if you want to talk about angels, this is where the angels are. And the ETs who are contacting Earth at the moment are from about level 5 and upwards. So when we talk about good and bad, yes, this applies on level 1. Level 1 where planet Earth is, there are probably about another, I think, 1,000 other human life forms on other planets. So yes, certainly there's good and bad applies down there because it's the most polarized. Planet Earth is a very polarized planet. As you move up the human ladder, this polarity becomes less and less as we move towards oneness. And so there's more, how can I say, free will actually diminishes, it becomes God's will. But on a planet like Earth, we have to have access to free will to be able to make that ultimate choice, that old Armageddon thing between love and fear. And this is what determines our soul evolution or lack thereof.
Now, some would ask, like, I got a friend, as a matter of fact, who comes on this show often, and he says he has an extraterrestrial friend. I got folks who have had encounters with Bigfoots on a regular basis, and I often ask the question, I mean, pictures or anything like that, they don't allow that, do they?
So just ask that question again.
The extraterrestrials, if you're up on the ship or around. They don't allow you to take pictures or anything like that.
Oh, no, pictures, no, they don't. No.
I
No.
didn't think
I
so.
don't think the equipment would even work. Even if they did, I don't think the equipment would even work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They kill batteries, don't they?
Yes, I've done that on occasion. Oh dear, I was trying. A
Yeah.
poor woman was trying to do a video interview with me once, and the batteries died on it. Lucky she had another set. When I
Yeah.
realised what was happening, I must have been able to pull back because it didn't happen on the second set.
So what is it like on these ships? So I take it it's not like my desk. There's not stuff all over it, right? I mean, it's probably
No.
pretty neat where you can't get your hands on not a darn thing, right? No controls or anything that you can get your hands on, to look out windows or any of that stuff. I mean, is that so? What is it like on one of these ships?
Well, if you're not in a state of fear, you can wander around. I mean, I work up there, so, no problem. But when we take humans on board, if they're okay with it and not in a state of fear, yes, they can move freely around and look through windows or whatever.
Yeah.
The ships are actually very, very, how can I say, very clinical, very clean. Light comes out of the walls automatically, so you don't have to go switching lights on. If you want to go into a room, you just visualize a door and you can go in. They actually, certainly the crew quarters, really resemble, in the Greek islands, those streets where there are little narrow passages and very, very whitewashed walls with archways, and, it all looks sort of very moulded and flowing and smooth. That's what it looks like in the ships. And I used to, as a child, I used to get a sort of a funny homesick feeling when I used to look at pictures of Greek islands and their architecture, because it's rather like up on the ET ships.
And so I wonder. So then the little discs that people see flying through the sky sometimes, are those just, I guess, their version of scout drones or something like that, or are there actually extraterrestrials in those things?
Some of them there are, but there's a heck of a lot of ones from down here that have been actually made down here.
Yeah.
A lot of the ones you see around are from down here. The ET ones are generally in a different dimension.
The triangles, I was told those are ours. Is that your take on the black triangle crafts?
Yeah, as far as I know, they are from down here. We might use some. I haven't had much experience with them. I can only talk from my perspective or my experience, but I think there's probably both again involved.
Yeah. Well, I asked because I seen one night, and I'll tell you what, it was amazing. I mean, they're able to blend right into the sky. Well, like we were just saying. I don't know how they do it, but they're able to. I mean, if they don't want you to see them, you don't see them. That's why I say when people are having these sightings, it's obvious that these extraterrestrials must want them to see them.
Oh, yes, in some cases they do, because they're trying to make their presence felt a bit more down here. So they will allow people to see them. So, don't think that all ETs are fake. They're not. But it's just important for people to be aware that down here they do have the technology, and fake ships have been made. The super soldier hybrid who I was friendly with and working with for a while, she was actually taken to one of the works down in, somewhere in America and shown these things in operation. She was talking about them. She also saw the body of a tall grey who had obviously been tortured, so they're keeping bodies from crashed ships and doing horrible things. There's just so much going on. People wouldn't have any idea, truly.
Well, yeah, and I think most people, probably including myself, would probably pass out if we actually knew everything that was going on, because I've been doing this show for a long time now, and I know that things are pretty corrupt and pretty crazy out there, right? But even me, I mean, now there's nothing surprises me anymore. I mean,
no. Well, I know people are talking about it now, but a fake alien invasion was predicted way back in about the 1960s or 1970s by Dr. Werner von Braun.
Well, I'm under the impression that they might be getting ready to try something like that because after lying to us for 70 years, they finally come out and say, "Oh yes, these Tic Tac UFOs are real and we're chasing them."
Yeah, yeah,
Why all of a sudden did they tell us that? As they
yeah,
want us to believe they're real, so that when they put them a bunch in the sky, everybody, craps themselves.
yeah, yes, yes.
I don't know
Yeah,
how else to
they're
put it.
building up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Hey, Judy, I want to take a break here briefly, if you don't mind. Hold
Yep, you're
on,
right.
and we'll come back, and you and I will talk some more. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I hope everybody else is too. And I might attempt. I don't know about calls this week because there's still one more line that I am trying to get straightened out here, and I'm gonna listen on the break and see if I could catch what this music's sounding like. As long as it's good on radio, then and it was great on YouTube last night. So I'm starting to think that it's Rumble, and I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. This is The Last Frequency. I am Mike Vera. My guest is Judy Carroll, and as you already know because you've been listening, she's a very interesting guest. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't get blinded by the light, folks. Sunday nights on YouTube, a 2-hour version. I do it from 9 to 11. On Mondays, I'm here for 3 hours. I do it from 9 to midnight. And on Saturday morning at 12 a.m. going into, Saturday night into Sunday morning, I do Uncensored. And that show's not for everybody. But anyways, my guest is, like I said, I promised, very interesting guest, and that's what you got. So, Judy, we are back, and yeah, so how do people free themselves from these controllers? How do they do it? How do you break the chains?
Okay. We go back to the fact that we create our own reality. So you really need to understand that, and you need to
Yeah.
very determinedly focus on positivity rather than negativity. Because the controllers basically feed off negative emotion. That's the bottom line with them. So this is why they're stirring up so much stuff at the moment. They're having a real feeding frenzy. So, yeah, it's basically choosing positive over negative. And I know that's a very, very difficult ask, but it's so important at this time.
Yeah. All right. And so we can free ourselves.
We
It's
can free ourselves. The key to freeing yourself is to get into a higher vibrational frequency, and you do this through spiritual practice. Whatever you like doing, if you like doing, meditation or Tai Chi or yoga or whatever, or just walking in nature, making yourself feel good, if prayer, anything like that, anything that gets you into a higher, more calm, spiritual state of mind helps you to lift your vibrational frequency, and that's the key to keeping yourself protected from them. As soon as you lower your frequency, you become prey to them.
And it's almost like this world has been designed to keep us in that state of negative. I mean, that's all you see. I mean, I remember as a kid, once in a while, you'd see a good story on the news, local news or whatever. You don't even see that no more. It's just all bad, 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 bad. I mean, everything. It's just, and sometimes it's not even as bad as they make it out to be. And
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly, exactly. I remember reading somewhere that some news station or newspaper or something some years ago tried to just put out positive stuff, and nobody bought it. And this is the problem with us humans. They
yeah,
are very focused on drama and fear. They love it. For some reason, I know that there's a reptilian part in the human genetics, have the reptilian part of the brain. So I don't know if that's what's to do with it. If there's a genetic link there
yeah.
with the reptarians, there would be, because I mean they were partly responsible for creating humanity. But yes, people thrive on drama and fear. I can see that. It's being fed. They're like a what's the animal they lead around with a ring in its nose, or dangling a carrot in front of a donkey.
Human nowadays, it's human with the ring around the nose.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, but yeah. So well, and it's really hard to get away from the negative unless you do what Peter Kling did, and that is go out into the woods somewhere and build yourself a log cabin and say to hell with the rest of it. But I mean, as long as you're hooked up to technology, you're always going to have these negative forces coming at you, and I guess you got to do what?
Yeah, well, up to a point, but you have free will to choose whether you listen to it or not. I don't tune in. I just don't listen to it because it makes you feel bad. This is where free will comes in. You don't have to. I mean, it's all like all this reality TV rubbish. I mean, there's no way I would ever watch that stuff. Even some of the cooking shows, the whole thing is all choreographed, arguing with each other and that. You know that it's all rubbish. I just don't bother with them.
Oh, yeah, and just like things like TikTok, these things have been designed to keep people, I mean, before they know it, they've been sitting there for 2 hours flipping through videos. I mean, when you're at the end of your rope and you're laying on your deathbed, I have a feeling the last thing you're going to do is go, boy, I wish I flipped through just a few more of those TikTok videos.
That's right. I find getting out into nature is really healing too. I love that. If I'm feeling a bit down after dealing with something difficult, I go out in the garden.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love getting out into nature myself when I can.
Yeah, when you can.
And nowadays you got to be careful there too. I mean, there's just a lot of bad. Like here we got, you never know. You get out I like to go to the national parks sometimes, but there's always warnings. Be careful. There's a wild, what do they call them? They're them wild pigs. The boars and stuff. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
I don't. And I'm not the kind of guy who wants to run into a wild animal in the woods, but
that's true. And it's a little bit the same here in Australia. We've got snakes here that you've got to watch.
Oh, you guys got everything there.
When we used to live on the acreage property, I don't know how many snakes that we used to see. We had kennels down the back. We used to do a bit of boarding kennels, and we had chooks. And I remember once I was walking down there with one of our Labradors, and he was in front of me, just walking through the kennel, and he just stopped dead, and I almost fell over the top of him. And when I looked, there was a snake slithering in front of him. So he basically stopped me from stepping on it.
Oh man, yeah. See, I mean, it's got to be hard getting through a full life without an incident. Then you got them alligators, and them things they're worse than the crocodiles you got. They're worse than the alligators.
Oh, that's where my husband's from. He knows all about them.
Oh, yeah, those things, they'll hunt you down.
Oh yeah. They just took someone, or they tried to take someone just about a week ago, and they got his dog, which was really sad.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, we had an incident here in Florida. I'm not in Florida, but in the United States in Florida, there was an old lady walking the retirement home, and she had her dog with her, and she said, you're in Florida, there's alligators. You don't walk close to the water, but she was walking next to the pond, and this thing come racing out of the water, and she just looked at it, and they got her, dragged her in, did her in. Yeah, so that So from an ET perspective, do you have any advice for, say, the future of technology? Everyone's worried about AI taking over, and and so on and so forth. So where are we heading in the future here, technologically?
Okay, well, we have to go back to the human ladder here. And expanding conscious awareness, that the technology that the Greys use is consciousness enhanced. In that, we can just think what we want to the computer and it obeys us, which makes it really hard for us down here. Most of the Greys who are down here are absolutely hopeless with Earth plane technology, because for us it's like being used to driving, a really top quality automatic car and being asked to get in and drive this really old, ancient, manual operated tractor or something. The computers down here ask you all these silly questions. I'd give you all these options and you never know what to click on. Whereas up there, the computer, we can just communicate with them and they know what we want. So, yeah, consciousness enhanced technology is where technology needs to go.
Okay, and what would be the top or main message ET would like to share with humanity, and also, how come, I don't want to sound like that guy that says, why don't they land on the White House lawn? But if they got a message, why not? I mean, they could probably tap into all our devices and give us that message, but no.
No. I've actually explained this. I have got some lovely messages from them, which I'll give in a minute. But
Okay.
How I've explained it in a couple of interviews is the ETs could be likened to a football coach, coaching a football team. Now, when the team is in training in the morning before the match or on the sidelines, the coach can talk to them and give them advice, etc., etc., etc. But when the team's out on the field playing, there is no way that the coach would be allowed to go out there on the team and start pulling players aside and giving them advice and maybe having a bit of a kick of the ball himself. He has to just stand back and grit his teeth. Whether his team is winning or losing, he just has to stand back and watch. Now, that's basically what it's like down here. Once people manifest down into human form, they have to learn their own self-empowerment. The ETs aren't allowed to be stepping in, interfering all the time. We can try and whisper little messages in their ear, and we can certainly talk to them between lies, but once they come down here, there are very strict protocols in place to stop the ETs from interfering. And while people are spreading so much negative information about the Greys, there is no way that we would come and land openly. I mean, we would have to be crazy to do that. We'd get shot at.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But, I'm thinking, you're up there, you got access to all the satellites, right? I mean, I guess that'd probably terrify people too.
Yeah. That's the thing. People have to find their own empowerment. That's the bottom line. This is why we're working behind the scenes, trying to help, taking people up on the ships, trying to activate more of their DNA to help them to open up their conscious awareness more so that they can get self-empowerment. This is the whole key to it, and this is where positive thinking comes into play. Because of the fact that humans have been brainwashed for so long by the controllers, and they basically have disempowered humanity, and humanity needs to get their own power back. We can't give it to them, they have to do it themselves. Even if we came down here and, pressed a button or something and made it all lovely, as soon as we left a couple of days later, it'd start going downhill again. People have to learn to do it off their own empowerment.
Now, I noticed you said we several times, so then you would consider yourself one of them.
Oh, yes, very much so. I mean, I consider myself an Earth human too. I love planet Earth. It's the most beautiful planet, and I love living here. But I still relate very closely with the ETs as well.
I see. And so what are some of those messages?
Okay, well, one of the main things they told us once, I was doing book signings at the local bookshop, and people kept saying, "Oh, what have the ETs told you? What have they told you?" And I'm going into all this, trying to go into all these details. And when I got home, I asked my teacher, my ET teacher, "Look, how do I sum it up?" And he said, "Okay, to sum up what we've taught you is A, to understand our universe in terms of oneness. B, to understand our universe in terms of energy, and C, to understand ourselves in terms of oneness and energy, thus enabling us to choose love over fear."
Okay.
Yes, that's very, very deep.
Well, it is. And did they have anything to say about, I don't know, Earth changes that are going on, changes in our solar system, or anything along those lines?
Oh, yes, certainly. Earth changes are going on because of the shift from fourth to fifth world consciousness. So, yeah, all these earth changes that are happening. And even like in the greater reality, we work with our little 3D reality down here, but the greater reality overrides all of that. And people can think of the greater reality as universal consciousness, God, whatever. And in the greater reality, there are no accidents. One of our great teachers is always coming in with that. He talks with a deep voice and he says, there are no accidents. So whatever happens is meant to happen. Now, I know that there's been a lot of deaths through COVID down here, but when a planet is shifting from one frequency to another, many, many people choose to cross over, transition at that time. Some of them go over because they feel they can help down here more from the other side, and others feel they're not quite ready for that, and so they transition and then they reincarnate back when they feel ready. And this is one of the main things that the ETs keep pushing. Our time of death is preordained. We choose our time and manner of dying before we're even born. So no death is ever accidental. And also, I know people are horrified. Well, but what about the death of a baby? You don't know how old that soul is. We're not our body. We are a soul consciousness. The body is simply a vehicle that we can step into and step out of. That's all the body is. And that's another really important thing for people to understand. We are not our body.
We are not our body. And that leads me back to the spirit and the ghost kind of thing, and how, I've had people tell me, well, I saw the gray in my living room and he went right through the wall like a ghost. And I'm thinking, well, they must be be able to get on the same vibration, do they?
Yes, that's right. It's all to do with vibrational frequency. This is where one of my latest books, Cosmic Spirituality, I talk about the blending of religion and science. Science and religion have to blend for people to be able to really get a handle on this. Vibrational frequency is the key to our spiritual growth. The higher we vibrate spiritually, the more evolved we are. And spiritual growth and a change in the vibrational frequency is brought about through spiritual practice. That's what it's all about. So you get someone who's stepped out of their body, in other words, a ghost. They're not operating in 3D. They're operating in 4D or 5D or 6D or wherever their soul is able to manifest at that time. And so this is why their vibrational frequency is faster. And so therefore the molecular structure of their being is more widely spaced. And the ETs have technology to enable them to do that. And this is how we walk through walls and put other people through walls. Often when humans have been taken in their physical form, they find themselves leaving the room placed between two greys. You'll have a grey behind the grey in front. And what we're doing, we're opening the passage through the wall for them, and we've also affected their vibrational frequency, so it becomes like water being poured through a sieve. They're able to move through the molecular structure of the wall or whatever.
Ah, okay. All right. And so then I guess it's fair to say that when we die, what happens with us?
Yeah, well, it's like a driver stepping out of their car. We step out of our body. We leave our body. Some cultures leave the body undisturbed for 3 days because they believe it takes 3 days for the spirit or the soul to fully sort of dissipate out of the body. But it's very individual. Some people zip out straight away, some take longer. But that's what's happening. We're moving out of our body. And this is why people who have near-death experiences are able to bring back conscious recall of what's happened. Same as when I go on the ship, I leave my body behind. I've seen it lying on the bed. So your consciousness is separate from the body. The brain is actually an organ for consciousness to be processed through, just the same as the lungs in the body are the organ for air to be processed through. We're surrounded by air, but we can only take in as much as our lung capacity is capable of. We're surrounded by consciousness, but we're only able to take in as much as our brain capacity is capable of. And human evolution is to do with gaining more and more capacity, consciousness capacity, expanded conscious awareness.
Yeah, I've often thought that the brain was just it's just a tool for the mind.
It is. That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
just like we. I've said in the past that coming into this planet, it's like kind of like going into a bowling alley, right? You put on
Mm,
a pair of bowling shoes, you borrow them while you're there, and
yep.
you go and you play your game. And when you're done with your
Yeah.
game, you got to turn back in the shoes and you leave.
Exactly, exactly. Or like an astronaut putting on their suit. Even some of the grey bodies are actually like that. They're like astronaut suits. The higher consciousness just places itself in the body. So some of the so-called greys are actually from higher planetary cultures. They're not necessarily Zetas. They could be from anywhere. But they use the grey container because it's such a perfect spacesuit.
Well, astronauts are the only ones who ever get off this planet with their body.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but they use their spacesuit, which is in some cases that's what the grey body is. It's a spacesuit.
What about do the Greys die?
Yes, they do, but again, they don't look on death like we do. When they want to shift to another container, or the container's been, but that's what they call the body, the container. If it's been damaged, they just step out of it and then go into another one, choose birth into another one. So it's that they look upon death as like a transition. It's not the final tragic ending that we look on it down here.
I see. All right. Well, then they know something we definitely don't. It seems like we're not supposed to know because we
Well, it's
just.
been suppressed. That's the problem. It's been suppressed. The fact that we are a consciousness, a soul consciousness. We're not our body. Religion should teach about this, but they're not. The Greys are much, much more fully consciously aware of the fact that they are a consciousness. I mean, sometimes they will appear as just an orb. That's what orbs are. They're consciousnesses without bodies.
Uh huh. Well, it's not. Now there's tall Greys, right? There's
Mm.
the short Greys. I mean, are they all in cahoots together? Are they.
Yes, with the genuine ones, yes. But the small greys are actually extensions of the tall greys. I remember our grey teacher, Oris, once saying he could place himself in 3 places at once. So what they do, they can place themselves into the small grey body. They're sort of more, again, they're more like spacesuits, so that they carry the consciousness of the tall greys.
Uh
And
huh.
then the medium-sized ones, that's what I am up there. I'm a medium-sized one.
I once interviewed a gentleman, and his name is slipping me at the moment. It's on the tip of my tongue, but he spoke about the tall whites. He called
Oh,
them.
yes, that'd be Charles Hall.
Yes, Charles Hall.
Yeah,
Talked with him back in 2011. It was, and it's been a long time. And yeah, boy, what a fascinating story he had to tell about them. And I'll tell you, he did not stutter one bit. I mean, he sounded convincing, very
yeah,
convincing.
yeah. Those tall whites are not Zetas. They're not the tall white Zetas. They're different.
Right. Well, he had just said that they were actually nice, but the mothers were very protective, and
That's
so
right. Yes, I
yeah.
read his book. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it was pretty fascinating. So there's how many different groups of extraterrestrial do we have lurking around this planet?
Oh, there are quite a few. At least 30. There might be more. I'm not even really sure. I've never really tuned into it. I just work with my group. I'm not really sure. I
Yeah.
certainly know up on the ships we work with a number of different ones. So
So
I'd say there'd be a lot.
let me ask you this. So being that you're, as you said, your group, if I guess what I'll say is if this is truly genuine, then you would think governments must have some kind of interest. Do they know about this? Do you ever get harassed? And I don't know.
Oh, yes, I personally haven't, but I know someone who's nearly been killed through it. In fact, I know a couple of people who've been harassed horribly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I would think they would take a mega interest in this.
Yeah.
I understand that they usually will send their people to these conferences and things, as try to get a feel for who's who.
Yeah. That's I don't go to conferences much. I just work quietly in Australia. But the point that I was put across is that I'm just not into the technology science side of it at all. I'm purely down here in the spiritual sense to try and teach the spiritual side of it. So that's I have to stick with that. I don't get into government stuff. I don't get into politics. I don't get into any of that.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. Believe
I know
me.
nothing.
Yeah. Oh, people get crazy over that stuff now.
They do.
Yeah. So, somebody asks that if I guess they're asking is somebody who thinks that Greys are demons, and they ask, well, are demons real then?
Humans. Greys are humans. Yes, they are.
Yeah. Well, I think
they are. Yes, but they're not mammalian humans. Mammalian humans are down here. Greys are insectoid humans.
Well, no, I think they're talking about demons, like.
Demons.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought human. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, they're not.
Okay, and so they're asking if the Greys are not demons, then are demons real? Because people, I don't know if you're familiar with Bill Bean and folks like that, but they claim to have been tormented by these dark entities, these demons.
Oh, look, there are. There's interdimensional energies that are drawn in down here through things like drugs and alcohol. Absolutely, yes, there are.
Oh, yeah, and politics.
Yeah, well, and religion.
Yeah.
But yes, they're interdimensional and they come from a lower dimension and they get drawn through. So, yes, there are.
So these, I'm wondering, going back to what you said earlier about the reptilians, going back to the dinosaur times.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why the planet was hit. Was it, to eliminate them, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Before we finish up here tonight, I'd like to give you the floor. To get out anything else that you'd like, any information, something we haven't gone over or what have you, by all means, go right ahead. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike. I've really enjoyed it. But basically, what I'm trying to get across is the fact that we are more than just a physical body. We're not just a 3D body. We are a soul consciousness. And I think once people can get their minds around that and really understand it and take it to heart, a lot of the fear of death and all the stuff that's going on down here will be alleviated to quite a degree. Because, this is the main thing that people are terrified of. I'm going to die. What if I catch COVID? What if the vaccinations kill me? And all this stuff. Look, you die when you're meant to. It's all a pre-birth choice. You don't die a minute earlier than when you're supposed to. And the fact that we just step out of the body is nothing to be scared of. Death is part of life. It's the uncertainty that we have in life. So by losing your fear of death, you lose your fear of life. And I think that's a really, really important thing for people to understand, that we are a soul consciousness. We're not a physical body. And also the other really important thing to understand is that our view of reality is 3D and therefore extremely limited. There are multiple realities and dimensions out there, and they're all right here, right now. Time is confined to 3D, so there really is no such thing as time. It's all happening in the great now, in capital letters, N-O-W, and it's all right here. So we have different levels of reality. So, for example, we were talking before about the astral plane. The astral plane isn't all that far in frequency rate from the physical 3D plane. And this is where a lot of ghosts and those sort of things come in. It's actually a meeting ground for the higher vibrational ETs to come down and make contact with humans, because most humans can have astral plane experiences in the form of dreams and things like that. So this is where a lot of the meeting goes on in the astral plane as a meeting ground, a halfway point where the two can meet up. Because until we open more of our conscious awareness as humans, we can't get up to the higher frequencies. And the ETs, because they're very high frequency, have trouble down here appearing in physical form. So the astral plane is like a go-between for contact to take place. Does that make sense?
It does. And here's something I always wondered, and it's and I'll be honest, I seen it on an episode of X-Files once, and it kind of I found it interesting, and it kind of clicked in my head and says, hey, that makes sense. So what I'm saying is, like, an ET could be walking down the sidewalk while you're walking past them, and you see what they want you to see. Just like they do in the sky, right? I mean, so you're walking by and you think you see Bob, but Bob's really an ET. It's the illusion that he puts over. Yeah?
Yes, they can do that to try and cut down on the fear factor. They can certainly do that. Like I had an experience with an owl when I was living on the acreage property. I know it was one of the Greys trying to contact me, but they showed themselves in that form. And a lot of people have these screen images of animals. It happens quite a lot.
I see. All right. So where do people go if they want to learn more?
Okay. We've got a website, which is ufograyinfo.com. And Grey is spelt with an E because we're in Australia. So I'll just say that again, ufograyinfo.com. We also have a YouTube channel with a lot of podcasts up, and it's youtube.com/user/the Zeta message. And the Zeta message is all one word with a capital T, a capital Z, and a capital M. I also have 5 books that are all available on Amazon. There's the Zeta message, Connecting All Beings in Oneness. Human by Day, Zeta by Night, a dramatic account of Greys incarnating as humans. My 3rd book is Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. I've just had 2 recent ebooks published. One is an interview with an alien, comments by an undercover ET, and Cosmic Spirituality, blending religion and science in oneness from an off-planet perspective.
All right, awesome. Well, you're definitely getting the message out there. They must be happy with you.
I'm doing my best.
Yes, you are. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here tonight and, taking time out of your morning to spend time with us. Judy.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mike. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, so did I, and I thank you again. So until next time, stay safe and tell the little guys I said hello.
I certainly will. God bless to all. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. There she goes, Judy Carroll. Now some people it's not abductions, it's willingness to travel, if you will. So interesting. And folks, you take it all, as I say with a lot of guests, you take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. I believe that people are making contact with extraterrestrials, or extraterrestrials are making contact with people, I should say. And I believe that some people are, having some kind of not only contact, but some are actually, I still believe that some races out there do abduct. But I think there's a mixture of everything. And I've learned not to throw things to the side like that because you just never know. You just never know. And thank you, Judy. Judy said, didn't mean to cut you off. What a great show. You didn't cut me off, and I thank you so much, Judy. It was a great show. I enjoyed it. And what do I got Sunday? That's right. Okay. So Sunday is going to be a good show, but on Monday, I don't have everything in front of me for Sunday. I do have a good guest, though. I know that. on Monday, I have psychic Mark Anthony joining me. It's been a while since I've had a psychic on. I mean, a psychic who actually would do readings if I wanted them to. I'm going to try to get this phone line up and going before that show, just in case. But if people want to call in tonight, not right now, but in a little while, you can now. 803-392-4566 is the number that I'm going with this evening. I want to get that other one. You know, I don't know. It's, you know, every time you go to do one thing, something else happens, and it takes you off the game. It's like, you know, negativity ETs or something. I did say I wanted to play that clip for you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Because I think, you know, this is the one I'm referring to. It's the guy who... Am I on the right one? It's the guy who said that the Apollo 11 was a fake. Let's see here. Where did I put it? Someplace here. Oh, I think I know. I says, make sure you put it there so you don't misplace it. Okay, there it is. So check this out. I'm gonna run this for you. So it's not long. It's about 14 minutes long, but you need to hear. Maybe can I put it on screen? Hold on a second. Let me try to get it on screen for you. Give me a second. It's been a while. Yeah. Let's do that. And I think, oh yeah, there it is. We got it. Oh geez, I'm appearing over it. Oh, that's okay. I see what's happening. No, that's gotta go there. Look at everything's gotta test me here. All right, so let me get this blown up in a way that it looks better for you. I want to do this. All right, take a listen to this.
Hello, my name is Gene Gilmore. My birth given name is Eugene Reuben Akers. I don't want any money for what I'm doing because hopefully this video won't come out until after my death. So I have nothing to gain, nothing to profit by telling you what I'm going to tell you. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you is available online until they see this video. And I'm sure things will start getting scrubbed. As well as moon photos. But anyway, my father in 1968 was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. I made notes on my computer so that I wouldn't forget anything, because there's a lot of little things and stuff that I forget. So these notes were made a long time ago. The original recording that my father made on his deathbed was destroyed in a fire. So this is my deathbed confession, because now I'm dying of cancer. I've got cancer all over the place, and they don't know where it's coming from, and I don't know if they can stop it, but it don't look good. So I'm going to go ahead and make this video for Bart Cybrell. He knows not to do anything with it until notification of my death, for which my son will respond to that. Okay, like I said, in 1968, my father was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. We lived in Clovis, New Mexico. He was in the military police for over 20 years, and on his deathbed in 2002, we made a recording of what happened. Now, I told you what happened in the recording. But it doesn't matter, because all the facts are there, so it doesn't matter who's telling the story or whatever. I will, at the end of the video, I'll supply pictures of my father, his badge, the flag of when they buried him. I'll show you some photos of my dad. I was born in 1955. So in 1969, I was 14 years old. I vividly remember the Apollo 11 coming down, landing on the moon, and they're walking around and all that stuff. Anyway, I never questioned that until my dad told me what he told me on his deathbed. And then I started doing a little, nothing major, nothing, just surfing the web, I think they call it, surfing the web. And a lot of that information is right there on the web. I mean, it verifies the story that he told me. A good detective, a good one, would be able to uncover a lot more of the story than I'm getting ready to tell you. So, please have at it. I've never known my dad to lie. To get caught lying was worse than whatever it was you did to begin with. I remember going to school with long sleeve shirts on to hide the purple welts. You did not lie in our house, that's for sure. Dad had a really bad attitude towards lying. Excuse me again. Okay. Anyway, this is the story that my dad told me on his deathbed. Project Slam Dunk was the name of this. President Johnson in 1968. Okay. In Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, he said by the time he got there, that there was already 2 large hangars that were connected. There was hundreds of dump trucks that came in and dumped sand and stone, and cement powder was powdered over the top of all that to make it look like a lunar landscape. They had the men in fashioned it into a lunar landscape, he said. Okay, I've never known my dad to lie, so this all took me by surprise. You know, what's that all about? So anyway, he said that in front of the airplane hangars was pole framing with large canvas tents that was concealing the inside of the staging area. Inside the staging area, on flatbed trucks, was created the lunar lander that was reassembled back inside the hangars. All of the walls were painted flat black, and the ceilings as well. He was sworn to secrecy by the NSA, and they would put him in prison for breaking that oath. And when Dad saw the moon landing on TV, he cried. He said he knew that what he had witnessed on TV was exactly what they recorded in that hangar. There was no reason for them to go flying around and everything. They had detailed high-definition photos of the landing area. There was no reason for them to go flying around to a different landing area that almost exhausted their fuel, except for drama, because everything had gone so smoothly. Nothing, so it had to be something. Anyway, Dad was one of 3 guards that guarded the inside of the front entrance. There was a list of 15 people who could enter. No one else was allowed by order of President Johnson. And here is that list, and I gave it to Bart Seibel as well. He checked out a lot of these names, and he says he can verify a lot of these people and what they do. And I come across a couple myself. Anyway, President Johnson, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, Werner von Braun, Robert Emager, Gene Kranz, James Webb, Joe Kerwin, Dr. Thomas Paine, Glenn Looney, Dr. Christopher Kraft, Dr. James Van Allen, General Trudeau, Lieutenant Colonel Donald Simon, and Grant Norrie. Now, the only two that I really have information on is Robert Emanator. Apparently, he did a lot of video work and stuff for the Department of Defense. So the DoD did know him, okay? And the other one was Grant Norrie, N-O-R-R-A-Y, I believe, was, to the best of my dad's knowledge, was a like some FBI, CIA, NSA, who knows, something like that. Okay, President Johnson only showed up for the first day of filming. Filming lasted for 3 days, and the entire project was restored to original. In other words, the hangars were all taken apart, the sand was all removed, and so on and so forth. Okay. Dad said that there was a lot of building going on at the base, so at the time, so sand and cement powder was never questioned. I can see how they could smuggle that all in within and everything else that's going on. Since 2002, I have dug up, or I never told you about that, the evidence for the moon landing that I have found. If you go to Google and go to Cannon Air Force Base website, they admit that President Johnson was there. The lunar lander was there. The astronauts were there. I also have verified some of the people on the list were there. I also verified that there are a lot of building going on the base, just as he had told me. And all of this was going on at the same time, on the same day. Dad told me all these things father to son. He also told me not to ever tell anyone what he had said, but he said on his deathbed that he had to tell somebody before he died because it was just too important not to tell. I sure as hell wasn't going to tell anybody. Yeah, I feared for my wife and me and my son, and I'll tell you why. Ever since I contacted Bart Sebrell, I think they may be listening to his phone once in a while, because I never had any problems until I contacted him and told him my story. Now, people broke into my house 2 times. I was visited by men with black suits, and I was told in no uncertain terms to drop this whole project, not to say anymore to anybody, or me and my wife and my son could disappear. You take that pretty literally after everything that's going on. Well, so I stopped contacting Bart, and now I'm making this video that I'm going to send to Bart. Mr. Sebrell, excuse me. Bart's my brother, man. My brother in heart, my brother in Jesus, okay? Bart, being a good friend that he is, called the police for me and told them about the break-ins. The 2 detectives that came out and everything and questioned me and everything like that, I didn't give them any information at all. At the time, I thought it was a test from the guys in the black suits. I didn't say crap. So all that went away and everything, but definitely the 2 guys in the black suits were not the 2 detectives that came out to question me about the break-ins. But thanks, Bart. But no, I don't want any help. I just want somebody to pick up where I left off and be able to prove with the information I've given them. And I'm trying to give as much as I can because I know that once I die, I'm not going to be able to be asked any questions. So that's why I tried to give you a little backstory too. But that's about all I can think of. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me. And as I started seeing more and more of what he was telling me was true, I realized my dad wasn't lying. I lifted the lid off my dad's case, and you can see his name was Cyrus Eugene Akers. He was born on July 17, 1933. He died on September 28, 2002. Here's his badge, and I wanted to see if I could get as close as possible so that you can read the numbers on the bottom, which are, okay, there it is. Zero 7 5 9 6. 07596. That's my dad. And it must have been a really early picture because he's only got 2 stripes, so that was back in the 50s, I'm sure. Probably not long after I was born. And there he is. That's my father. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me. And as I started seeing more and more of what he was telling me was true, I realized my dad wasn't lying.
All right. Well, there it is.